Okay, here we go. All right, family.
Peace.
Welcome. Peace. So today we are going to present to you guys a presentation. Welcome to the ghetto, where we gather in higher education to teach others. Today's presentation is going to be constitutional tax exemption with Aboriginal-Indigenous Americans, aka Black folk. All right. I am your host, Minister Jael, and we also have Minister Shabazz here as well, who's going to showcase a demonstration of the solutions that we are going to share with you. And so we are ambassadors and deputy clerks of court within the Xi Amaru Tribal Government underneath the Aboriginal Republic of North America. All right, so we're also talking about the language of freedom here, code switching for Black entrepreneurship and wealth management. And so our first disclaimer and acknowledgement up front is that what we're getting ready to share with you is a level of awareness that most people don't have. And so once you come into realization of these things, you're going to have one of two choices: either to act like you didn't learn about who you are and your heritage, or you'll have an opportunity to get to the bottom of the rabbit hole, which is the most solid foundation that we as a community and as a people actually do have, as far as being able to make a difference in our cultural, socio-political, economical, and family dynamic and experience as a collective. All right, so without further ado, let's go home, because that's what matters. Okay, so context is key. Before we hop straight into it, we just want to give you a quick debrief, right? So the first pill that you're going to be swallowing here, and you may be familiar with this, is that when they talk about who we are as a people, being American descendants of slavery, foundational Black Americans, we were all taught that we were brought here as slaves from Africa. And so this is the misconception, and this is where they lie, because a greater majority of our ancestors were already here in the Americas, right? And so more specifically, you have, okay, what we have on screen is an image with a background, and you see depictions of peoples, and this is on a mural inside of a pyramid. And the pyramid that these murals are located within exist here in America. And these pyramids, they predate the ones in Africa. So now that just kind of pokes a hole in that whole theory of everything originated and everybody came from Africa, right? So we're Indigenous Americans. So now what? So the next point of that is that through your heritage as being an Indigenous American exists socio-political and economic advantages for you. Okay, so what we're talking about today was designed for us and by us. And again, we are the Aboriginal Republic of North America Xi Amaru Tribal Government, also known as ARNA. And so you've heard the expression, knowledge is power, right? Reclaiming your heritage for these advantages is not for the undisciplined, it's not for the weak, and it's not for the unfocused. You know what they say, right? If you want to hide something from the Black man, where you got to put it?
In a book.
In a book, right? So you have to be able to learn from institutions and curriculums that are outside the jurisdiction, the propaganda, and the control of your colonizers, right? So through your heritage, when you actually go and do your genealogy, and you look through those census records, there exists a very distinctive nationality, privilege, and protections. All right, so just to iterate a little bit more here, what we're talking about today is two things. Well, the biggest thing is just tax exemption, and your tax exemption existing through your identity and how you participate in commerce through contracts. And so when we look at our original identity prior to being relabeled as African American, Black, Negro, or colored, we see here in the Webster's Dictionary, all the way back in 1828, the original definition of American, right? An adjective pertaining to America, but then it says a noun, a native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals, or copper-colored races found here by the Europeans, but now applied to the descendants of Europeans born in America. Okay, and then here on the left side, we have some case law. You understand how case law works. When there is a matter brought before a court of law and it goes through litigation and the decision is made, whatever is defined within that case becomes precedence, and it becomes what is known as case law to be used as a reference point for any other matters that arise within the same context. Okay, so we have case law from Frazee versus Spokane County, where Indians was defined and used as a matter of law. And then we have another body of text where it says Indians is the name given by the European discoverers of America to its Aboriginal inhabitants. This term has been said to include members of the Aboriginal race, whether now sustaining tribal relations or otherwise. Okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about our Aboriginal heritage. We've all been miseducated about who we are, right? But these things have come to the light now. And again, this image here on the left, this is just another example of some of those murals on the inside of the pyramids that are down there in Mexico. And so the people depicted in these images, they are misnomered as the Mayans and the Olmecs, but they call themselves the people of the tree, aka the Xi. That's XI. All right. So the last point here is a quote by the great Malcolm X. What did he say? Only a fool would allow his enemy to teach his children. And so how foolish have we been all this time not educating our own people about who we are and our heritage? And so today we just wanted to give some context on just the ability to preserve your wealth and to save money just simply by exercising your right to tax exemption here. So we're going to slide over to, and this screen that we're sharing now is actually a website that you'll be able to navigate through. And right now we're just on the home page. So we're going to navigate over to the services tab to what we're talking about today, which is tax exempt business registration. Okay, so what we're talking about today is tax exempt business registration, right? So in other words, Black business plus tax exemption equals indigenous economics. And at some point, this is where you can navigate to inquire about our services and submit an application, right? And so we're able to do or perform this service for two types of people: those who are members of our tribal government for $200, and then those who are non-members of our tribal government for $400. But even though you're not a member of the tribal government, that doesn't mean that anybody can come get a free tax exempt business registration. This is specifically for the descendants of those who were impacted by genocide, denationalization, also known as slavery. Your foundational Black Americans, your American descendants of slavery. Okay, so, within 72 hours, we can generate everything that you need to go to the bank and open up your account to start doing business with that tax exemption, and it's for profit. All right. And so we have 7 types of entities that we provide, or that we work through. An unincorporated association, which also can function as a sole proprietorship. And then we have holding companies. We have a tribal LLC, a standard LLC, which is the only one that is registered with the Secretary of the State, general partnerships, 501(d), and a trust. Okay, so there's more information for you to read into, what that's about. And so one other point to bring in here, because now the question is like, how do you even have the authority or the audacity or the ability to do this? So we're just gonna segue real quick to our formal recognition as a indigenous tribal jurisdiction that is foreign to the United States jurisdiction. Okay. So you go to this tab here. What is ARNA? We're just gonna go straight to one point, which is what formal recognition does ARNA have? Okay, so what does it say here? The Aboriginal Republic of North America was formally recognized by the United States Department of State in March 6, 2006. We received formal witnessing signature of the Secretary of State by Condoleezza Rice on the executive branch, and the witnessing seal of the United States federal government based on Article 4, which deals with authentication, and Article 6, which is the supremacy clause of the United States Constitution. Both articles being based on international law in full accordance with the Code of Federal Regulations, Title 22, Section 131 and 131.2. This is also in accordance with United States Codes Title 4, subsection 42. And so additionally, on January 12, 2006, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania formally recognized ARNA and IPA, which stands for Indigenous Political Authority, with the witnessing signature of the Secretary of State, who at the time was Pedro Cortez, on that level for the executive branch. And they also witnessed our seal by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania at the county level. Okay. And so by the above noticing actions, the plebiscite for returning the political identity of Indigenous nationals of the Aboriginal Republic of North America became formally recognized on all levels of government in respect to the United States and from their historical headquarters, which is now known as Philadelphia County. All right, so that's what we're working with here. So I'm going to jump back over. Let's see. So if anybody has seen the movie that this image comes from, we're going to continue on with the analogy, because within that movie called The Matrix, the main character realizes that he's just living a life like this little rat over here that's just using its physical body to generate some energy and some light, right? So in other words, they have the mind of that person or individual just focused on running a rat race. And so once he takes the I think it was the red pill, right? He wakes up, and then the next thing is he notices that everybody else is asleep and they're just harvesting their energy. Okay. So what we're talking about today is the opportunity to redefine ourselves. Once we wake up to the fact that we have a culture and our culture is a reflection of our God-given nature, and that's what we need to get back in alignment, tune with. Our perception and our psychology has to evolve, and once we have those things evolve, how we exchange energy amongst ourselves, in other words, our economy, that's going to evolve. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about our economy and wealth management and being able to preserve our wealth, right? And so what it really boils down to, here's another example. Before I turn it over to the good brother, Minister Shabazz, you're going to realize that you have a choice to reapply yourself in life. You're going to have a chance to get back into reestablishing your affairs contractually, and you're going to have the opportunity to remove certain tax obligations and certain taxes from your life. And so pretty much you're going to be one of the two people here who continues to move forward, without applying this as a solution to your life. Somebody who doesn't mind paying taxes, and then somebody who actually did want to pay taxes. All right, so let's jump back over. So last section here begins with an expression. Oh yeah, it begins with an expression from the point of participating in commerce, right? So we talked about the 7 types of businesses there. So when you're participating in commerce, the pen is mightier than the sword. And so how you identify yourself on black and white, pen and paper, determines your status at law. And your status at law also determines how you perform in contracts. And commerce is governed by contracts. So more specifically, when you identify as a Black or an African American, just a 14th Amendment citizen, you're going to be subject and have to a tax obligation, right? Versus once you identify as an Indigenous American or Aboriginal American, and you start a business within a tribal jurisdiction that's foreign to the United States, that's going to be the exact reason you're going to be able to remove the tax obligation and become tax exempt, right? And so one more piece to the puzzle here is another case law that many of you may remember or be familiar with, which is the Dred Scott case ruling. And within the Dred Scott case, it was pretty much determined that persons of African descent cannot be and never were meant to be citizens under the United States Constitution. So when this brother brought a case before the Supreme Court, the court said that this individual doesn't even have the proper status, because the first thing that they do when you start a court case, they ask you to identify yourself on the record. So he identified himself as an African, a free African, and they couldn't even move forward with his case because the court would hold itself in contempt for addressing someone who is not even qualified to bring a case before the court of law, right? So at the end of the day, what's going on here is, because we've been ignorant to who we truly are, we've been patronizing this society out of ignorance with our taxes, and parts of our economy and our wealth has been going to their institutions that perpetuate our oppressive conditions like healthcare and this miseducational system, GMO foods and militarized police that terrorize our communities. All right, so what does that black dollar do? And last point here before we turn it over to the good brother is that what we're talking about is actual constitutional law, right? When you go to the United States American Constitution and you go to Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, this is the section where it's talking about taxation, right? Y'all remember that the Boston Tea Party, right? The Boston Tea Party was about taxation without no representation. And so, but even more specifically, in this clause, it says that Indians are excluded from taxes. All right. So if you are identifying yourself through your heritage, which is the original American, as it says here, the Aboriginal, the true Native American person, it's already written in the Constitution that you're tax exempt. You have a constitutional right to your tax exemption. And brother, you can take it over right here. That's all we got.
Oh, yes, sir. Thank you very much for covering. You covered a lot of ground there, brother. It's making my job a lot easier. I'm going to share my screen in just a moment here.
Okay, cool. And while you're bringing that up, I'll just go ahead and give you a slight introductory background just so you can roll in, okay? So our good brother here, Brother Shabazz, is one of our clients. Not only is he a client, but he's also now an enrolled member of the Aboriginal Republic of North America. His background is almost nearly 30 years in the financial services industry background. Past 15, maybe 20 years, he's been working with a brokerage firm in the compliance office on the West Coast of California. And so how did this brother come into ARNA? This brother came into ARNA, was it last year or earlier this year, for coming across our chief on YouTube speaking about a few different things. And at the time, the brother was, like many people out here during this time, was underneath the pressure of forced vaccination. And so our tribal government, we have exemptions for people to use with their employer, and that we've serviced thousands of people. And the brother was able to be serviced and dodge, that forced vaccination without being terminated from his job. And so at that point, he was like, okay, there's some legitimacy to what's going on here. Let me do some more investigation, because you said you was pretty skeptical about some of the things that you was hearing our chief talk about, right?
Especially when it comes to law and taxation and what our rights should be compared to what we're told our rights are. And after investigation and doing my due diligence, as we're taught in the corporate world, everything started to make sense. I started taking the test, making the step to move into
your due diligence. The due diligence that you got started was you actually enrolled into the juris course.
That's correct. I took the juris course because the course was on sale. And part of my motivation was also just to see if I could prove what the brother was saying and what ARNA was representing, to prove it wrong. And the exact opposite happened. They proved me wrong. They proved the government wrong. They proved everything we've been taught. And I'm going to expand a little bit on my expertise, like Jai was saying, was financial services, the financial markets, taxation, compliance, etc.
Right?
Well, say again.
You're also into investing in trading, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not going to get too much into investing with this presentation. Maybe that could be part 2.
Yeah.
But what we're going to do is build on, first of all, what brother Kojo did in one of his videos, as far as opening up the brokerage accounts, and then maybe I'll build on that in the future as far as what to put in a brokerage account, how to save, how to invest. But the first step is to get your tribal business. That's the first step.
Yeah.
And the second step is opening up your accounts so you can transact and interface with the government if you need to, interface with in commerce with your customers, with your partners.
Right. So what you're going to be showcasing for us today is just a demonstration of your documents and your success with registering your business with an account, a brokerage called Fidelity, right?
Fidelity, exactly.
And then also being able to apply your tax exemption through your employer.
And is my screen coming up?
Yes, sir. You're online.
All right, very good. So we're going to talk about, or what we have been talking about, is using our tax-exempt tribal business, not just for transacting business, but also for saving and investing. I'm going to get mainly into the tax-exempt account process, and then we'll follow up in the next video, possibly with the types of investments and investment strategies. So I have to give a disclaimer. This is not financial advice. This is for education purposes only. I have to advise you that investments involve risk, and there may be a loss of money or a loss of principal. So consult your financial advisor or do your due diligence and your research before investing. So, like, to build on what Brother Jael was saying, the first step is to establish a tribal business. So since ARNA is registered or recognized by the government, like Brother Jael was saying, we have the authority, and correct me if I'm wrong, to transact or to register businesses with the IRS. How does that process go exactly? Because what we're showing on the screen is us applying for my tax identification number as a tax exempt entity.
Yeah. So do you have the image of your entity, your business being registered in our tribal jurisdiction first? Because that's the first step, is to get your business registered.
Okay.
This is the one. Yeah. So the first thing that when people apply for our services and they send us all the information that they need for us to form the business for them in our tribal jurisdiction, is we're going to do just that. We're going to give you a certificate of registered tax exempt entity in our tribal jurisdiction. And so once you have this, we also we generate the EIN number that's, automatically classified in the IRS system as being a tax exempt tribal entity.
And we're on the books and we're on the record.
Mm-hmm.
So this document was sent to me by Brother Jael along with the tax exempt authorization from the IRS. And in the state of California, all businesses have to be registered under a fictitious business name. You can go down to the county office or county building to pay the fee. I actually did mine through LegalZoom. It's not a plug or advertisement, but I just didn't want to go down to the building and take a day off and wait in line. And the fees at LegalZoom were, less than $100 to get it done. So save some time to get that done. And you can see the name of my business, same as it states on the tribal document, SXC Genealogy, located here in Long Beach, California. My name is the registered owner. And that was notarized and signed by the county clerk here in Los Angeles. So you take these documents, your tribal certification and your fictitious business name, and you can use those documents to open up any account, as far as a bank account, business banking account, checking, savings, and of course, what we're going to cover today is a brokerage account. So this is the application to open up an account with Fidelity, and this is a business account. So it's asking primarily business information or your business name. So the first section is the business information. Name of the business is there, and my business is under a tax identification number, not a social security number. So I check EIN and put that number there, right, along with my personal information. The second section, the business information or business type and U.S. federal tax classification section, is very important. As we spoke of earlier, this is a tax exempt business. It's an unincorporated business, not a corporation. It's not publicly traded. It's a unincorporated or sole proprietorship. And we have to use tax exempt code number 13. At the end of the application, there's a list of different entities with codes and numbers. And I'll show you on that list, and I'll show you how number 13 is defined. But for our purposes, our tax exempt employee code is 13, and I'll cover that number or that code when we get to the end of the application. Second question is a more or less compliance question. Is my company involved with any municipalities or any city or local governments? The answer to that is no. I'm located in California. So whatever your state or residence is, that information goes there. My name as the Chief Executive Officer goes in this section, along with my personal information. I am a U.S. citizen. In addition to being a national of the Aboriginal Republic of North America, I am also a U.S. citizen. And I am interfacing as a national in this particular situation. I am interfacing as a national of the Aboriginal Republic of North America for tax exempt purposes. Otherwise, and I'll show you that if I was interfacing as a citizen, citizens are liable for taxes. Nationals of the Aboriginal Republic are tax exempt.
As a constitutional right.
As a constitutional right, yes, sir. I do have a daytime or corporate job, and I am employed, so that information goes here. The name of the firm, which will remain anonymous for our purposes today. And I wanted to have a beneficiary or a secondary person on my account, and that's my mom. And I have her down as manager. So if something happens to me, or if it's time to transact on the account and I'm unavailable, my mom has access to the account if need be. And her personal information, her citizenship, SSN number there. And this section talks about funding the account. I have an account with Fidelity, which is under my Social Security number.
There it is.
And all I did was just transfer some money from that account to a second account. But there's an option to transfer money from your bank account, or you can fund the account by check or by transfer direct deposit. And I want to say here also, I think that's the next section, or if you want to have any bells and whistles on your account, like checking or a debit card, go ahead and get all that information. Add that. There's another application actually to add all the bells and whistles to your account, all your features. So I recommend doing that up front as well. Because your brokerage account can work as a checking account, it can work as a savings account. You can have ATM cards attached to it, you can have credit cards through Fidelity, the whole nine. And this can all be under your tax exempt entity. And I also linked my bank account to my brokerage account. So as I transact business as SXC Genealogy and I receive checks and payments, those payments go into my bank account and I can transfer those funds into my brokerage account. And I can make other investments. Moving down to the account features. I didn't select check writing on this account. I think I did that after the fact. And it was a time-consuming issue or a time-consuming process to do it after the fact. So that's why we're recommending if you want check writing, go ahead and select it on the initial application.
Oh, this is the bells and whistles. Okay.
Yeah. And then there's active trading, and you get these discounts on commission, and there's extra programming and all this other stuff that not really applicable for our purposes. Right now, I mean, once we get into high-end investing, we'll talk about active trading. Beneficial ownership control person, that's myself. And coming down, this is the section where I would sign check all applicable boxes and sign. Account certification. Officer, manager, CEO, that's me. I will sign here. And the authorized person or the second person on the account would sign also on page 10 or section 10.
So you've already opened this account.
Yeah, this account's open.
Mm-hmm. How long have you had the account open so far?
Middle of last year, I opened the account.
Wow. All right.
And I've been transacting tax exempt since then. And
Oh,
I'll have the evidence to that toward the end of the presentation or the end of this section. So the backup withholding exemption. This is the code where it was talking about in section 2, I believe it was, your tax exempt status or your business status. And you see there's all types of businesses here with all types of codes. And the code that's applicable to us is number 13. We're a trust exempt from tax under section 664 and described in section 4947. So of course, part of our due diligence is to take a look at those codes and make sure they actually apply to us as a tax exempt entity, and they do. And one thing to expect when you open up an account, because this is not an everyday occurrence in the corporate world or with a company like Fidelity. So once I opened up my account, I received a phone call from their compliance officer asking me exactly who I am and what's the purpose of my business, and some other questions that have to do with anti-money laundering is the questions they ask me. Am I going to be receiving checks from foreign entities? Am I going to be transacting with foreign governments? What's my source of funds? What's my source of business, source of income, all those types of questions. So before the account gets open, they'll probably email you first to inquire, and then you would reply to that email, say, yes, give me a call. I'll call you at that number. And you ask for the person, and then you go through the interview process or the screening process, but it's not a big deal. We're just Aboriginal Republican. We're just members of the Aboriginal Republic of North America, and we're transacting under our constitutional rights. And this is what the actual benefit looks like. Let me see if I can make this screen a little bit bigger. How's that? All right, we've all seen these at the end of the year. If we invest or save, we get a 1099 to let us know that what we invested and what we tried to save, any gains on that is taxable.
Oh man, wait, so what's the actual percentage for capital gains currently?
It depends on your tax bracket.
Okay, so let's just stick to you.
I'm in a somewhat higher tax bracket. I'm not saying that I'm paid in full, but the way the brackets work is your tax brackets increase as your income increases.
Wait, so what's the capital gains tax that you have to, or that you were paying?
It comes out to be 50%.
Oh my gosh, 50%?
Comes out to be half.
So generally speaking, I think it starts off like around 30 to 35% or something like that. But then, like you said, if you're in a higher tax bracket, it increases.
Exactly.
Wow, I didn't realize that was
what happens is
50. Wow, that's crazy.
Your capital gains, your dividends, interest, and capital gains are more or less added to your salary or your taxable income. Yeah. It combines to your taxable income, and that bumps you up to higher tax brackets.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. So what you got here?
Yeah, so when it's said and done, I'm in a 50% tax bracket.
Jeez.
I was previously in a 50% tax bracket.
You ain't no tax bracket.
As you can see, the title of this 1099 is information only, informational tax reporting statement.
All right.
So it has the name of my business, and it has me as the CEO, manager, person in charge. And notice what I have highlighted at the bottom of the screen.
It says, our records indicate that you are an exempt
recipient
for 1099
reporting
reporting
purposes.
Whew.
This statement is based on IRS information reporting requirements as of the preparation date and is not furnished to the IRS.
Hmm.
The IRS has no record of me receiving this income. The reason they don't need to have a record of me receiving this income because I am tax exempt, or this particular business, SXC Genealogy, is a tax exempt business because we are under the jurisdiction of the Aboriginal Republic of North America.
In other words,
Brother Jael covered the laws and the particulars that go along with that. And this is it in action.
So in other words, they don't need a record of your income and reportings because it's none of their business, because you don't have a contractual obligation for it to be a part of their business. Okay.
But I still keep good records.
Yeah.
I keep my tribal records. I keep all my receipts. So in case I am contacted by the IRS, here's the documentation. Here's my tribal documentation. Here's my tax exempt documentation. Here's all the receipts that have been audited before. And it's not I keep good records. So when I am audited, I have questions. I have answers to their questions. And there should be no issue.
Right. All right.
I think it'll be even less of an issue this year because, again, exemption.
Right.
As compared to my corporate self, this is my account that is under my Social Security number. Not tax exempt.
Straw man.
Not a straw man. This is my regular doing business as a citizen resident of California.
Okay.
This 1099 says tax reporting statement. This one said informational. This one says tax reporting statement. What's different about this one? Besides being smaller print, this information is being furnished to the IRS. So the IRS has a record of what I transact in this account. Whatever I transact in this account is taxable. Dividends, interest, capital gains,
50%.
Taxable. 50%. So
whatever you
say I transferred assets from this account into my tribal business account.
Wow.
Just to keep everything consistent. But I still keep this account open. It's a couple hundred in there just to have it open. But I don't really transact in this account.
So this is a wonderful demonstration, brother. We appreciate you for just taking the time to gather your documentation to showcase here this applied solution. Shout out to Minister Kojo, for putting the word out a little over a year ago. You paid attention and you messed around and you found out.
Exactly.
So the next thing that you were getting ready to show us was for your employment, right?
Exactly. Starting with, just going a quick recap. I have a tribal business, my own business, side hustle. So when I work with customers, when I do a genealogy report, I receive payment for that. That's made payable to SXC Genealogy under that EIN number. That money gets deposited into my tax exempt account. No reporting, no government reporting, right? So that's one aspect. So my business is tax exempt, but also, and this could be true for non-nationals. If a person's not a member of our tribe, but they are one of our brothers or sisters, they can have a tax exempt business.
I'm gonna show them at the end our pre-screening process. So but you were getting ready to say for employment.
You have to be a member of our tribe of the Aboriginal Republic of North America
in order to exercise your tax exemption. And then one more other disclaimer or notice is that tax exemption on your economy whether it comes through one of two ways, employment or entrepreneurship. The tax exemption that's guaranteed 100% is on entrepreneurship. So having your own business, to generate your economy. When it comes to tax exemption on the employment side, it's not 100% guaranteed, because these businesses have contracts with the state, with the IRS, to already assume that you are tax liable. So in some cases, people, we've had nationals, like the good brother here, was able to verify his employment with his updated identity, and they were able to honor his tax exemption. But then in some cases, other businesses, they don't honor the tax exemption through this the process here. But you can go ahead though.
Yeah, very good point, brother. It was just so easy for me that I hope it would be the same for other nationals. I will hope that they don't have any problems.
See, but I think we said you're in California, and California is very progressive already. So
yes, it's very progressive.
Yeah, that does make a little difference. But hey,
right. But again, it's undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
If someone wants to challenge, which I don't want to say I'm looking forward to it, but if someone wants to challenge our status, we have the documentation, we have the expertise, we have the jurists, we have the experience. I don't think anyone wants to.
You got the courses that you can come take and prove yourself, trying to prove it wrong. So, hey, brother,
exactly.
What's here?
Exactly. And this recommendation is coming straight from our chief. All I do is I watch one of the videos on this subject, on this topic, took notes, watched it maybe 2 or 3 times to make sure, did my due diligence on the forms and what's required, and then just execute it.
So, brother, what do you have on the screen for us here?
What we have on the screen is the I-9, the form that we have to fill out as part of our employment, to certify that you are a U.S. citizen and that you are authorized to work in the United States. So what I had to do was basically a re-verification or a renegotiation, I like to call it.
Hey.
So I had this on file with my current employer, but I needed to update my status. As you can see, it has my government name listed, Albert Cooper III. And what I'm doing is changing my status and also notifying my corporation and anybody else who I transact with that I am now Xi Amaru. So you see, I signed it with my government name, and I also signed it with my tribal name. So they can see, or this form is to say that I'm making the change. And what am I using, or what's backing up, or what's verifying my change? Well, I have a tribal identification card from the Aboriginal Republic of North America. I have my tribal documents from my tribe, and I also updated my name on my social security number. And this is after tribal nationality, or obtaining tribal nationality, going through the courts, name change, status change, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the list of acceptable documents that they have to, or they can't discriminate against these documents. If you have this document and you say you are a certain type of person, or you have a certain status, that's the status that they have to accept, should accept. Like I said, like the brother was saying, it may be on a case-by-case basis, but in my case, it went quite smoothly because I showed them my Native American tribal identification. It's inside section B, or list B and list C. And I also showed them my updated social security card with my tribal name on it. I didn't want to use my government ID or my driver's license or my passport, because again, I'm changing my status, or I'm adding to my status. In addition to being a U.S. citizen, being qualified or being authorized to work in this country, I have a new status, which is not even new. This is my original status. I'm reclaiming. That's what I should have been using. I'm reclaiming.
You have
reclaimed my status.
Yeah,
that was
status.
stolen
Yeah.
from us. So I'm reclaiming my status
Awesome. So
using these documents.
word.
The second page or third page was not applicable in my case. And here is the re-verification and rehire, or supplement B. So I'm re-verifying. I think I read somewhere in the instructions on the form that don't put a date to put the word re-verifying. Like if you're changing your name, or like if a woman gets married, they change their name, but you're still with the same employer, but you're just making an update. You would put re-verify versus date of rehire. So as you can see, I added my tribal last name. First name stays the same. And the S is for Shabazz. What documents do I have? I have tribal membership documents, and I also have my tribal identification card. And I have my social security card. So I have our documentation from our government, and I have your documentation from your government.
Oh, there it is down there.
So here's my tribal ID that I submitted, or both copies of, or both versions of our tribal ID. There's my social security card with my tribal name, all consistent. And for the icing on the cake, in case they want to verify, if they want to edify, educate themselves on who I am and who we are, here's my certificate of Indigenous American tribal nationality and citizenship, signed by our chief. My signature, chief signature, our seal, and my tribal citizenship declaration, signed by me and notarized by the state, or notarized by a state notary here in California.
Wow. So it's that simple, man. It's literally that simple.
It's just that simple.
So, brother, I remember we were talking about this offline. Just the perspective that you now have with removing the tax obligation, and just you had a general perspective on just for people who are working through employment and being able to remove the taxes, and just generally what that can do for a person, on being able to make a living out of that income.
Oh, it changes your whole attitude. I go to work with a smile on my face because every dollar that I make is mine. Sometimes I go in early. Sometimes I stay late, take on extra projects, because basically my pay is double. My income is double. And I'm not out balling out of control. All that money goes into savings. It goes into building my business. It goes into genealogy. I'm giving more money to charity.
You need to recirculate your energy, your economy.
Recirculate dollars. Other brothers and sisters have businesses in ARNA that may need some seed money, or may need some investors to get some started. I got some extra taxes and dollars laying around.
So, right. Can circulate that back into our nation, back into our community.
Exactly.
And that's what it's about, family.
Versus it going to.
That's what we've been deprived of all these years. We've been deprived of being able to reinvest in ourselves, reinvest in our families, reinvest in our own businesses, reinvesting in our own communities. We're talking about wealth management too now. So saving up for, building up trust accounts, being able to invest into your own life insurance policies now, because you're not being taxed and got your money leaking, going to the institution and jurisdiction. So the last thing that I just wanted to show you guys was, where exactly do you go on the website? That's heritageonlymatters.com to actually submit your intake. And so the first thing that I wanted to acknowledge is that we do have a pre-screening intake. right? I mentioned to you earlier that our solution is strictly limited to our heritage, right? Not everybody who's Black has been a descendant of Americans who were enslaved as prisoners of war and stripped of their socio-political identity, being denationalized. So, we understand that people do like to scam, and so we're going to check people at the door with the pre-screening intake. So for any of our services that you are interested in working with us through, you just have to do a pre-screening intake one time. And then even if you do pay for the services, we cannot begin until you've actually filled out this client and service provider contract, which will allow us to protect you, and then which will also allow you to hold us accountable, because we do have laws and a government to ensure quality assurance and customer success and whatnot. So if there's an issue on our end where we're not fulfilling our obligation, you've paid us but we didn't perform the services, we have a channel for escalating that conflict to be resolved. Right. So the other intake form, this is this side of the website where all of our intake forms are listed. So we mentioned genealogy. The brother just enrolled into the genealogy course a few weeks ago, and he's already
completed.
Oh, completed. See, that brother is moving. He ain't playing out here. Like
genealogy is growing every day. I'm finding a new ancestor every day.
And so recently you told me that you found out that one of your family members has or not your family members, part of your family has land and has the patents to some land that may be occupied by some other people. So y'all about to get some land back, right? And
yeah, my people were from on my dad's side, they were from Oklahoma before it was actually a state. It was called Indian Territory. Now it's called Oklahoma. So if they were born there, raised there, were allotted land there before it was a state, then who were they? They were there before the people who now live in Oklahoma.
Wow.
They were there first.
Wow.
And that's evidence through genealogy.
So yeah, family, these are all services that we provide. Like I said, if you want to get a genealogy service, just come here, submit the intake form as well. And then, but specifically for this tax exempt business registration. And then I was going to mention as well that we also do property tax exemption, because how many of our people have lost land and houses that was in the family for generations simply because they couldn't keep up with the property tax, right? So we were able to exercise that constitutional right as well. But if and when you do get ready to go forward and getting a tax exempt business registration, this is where you're going to go. Okay. You're going to come here and submit your intake form, and then go into the website for, to check out. You just go to the store and come here and actually, grab the service that you're looking to invest with or invest into. But that pretty much concludes our presentation. Shout out to our chief, Dr. Ali. Shout out to all elected officials who have been diligently and progressively running our government actively. Shout out to all nationals who've been coming in, doing their due diligence, unlearning and relearning and getting back into alignment with their God-given nature. Shout out to Minister Shabazz here for messing around and finding out. And, thank you for being a part of this journey that I've been on diligently, for some time myself. I was in.
What's that website, brother?
Oh, so the website here it's called heritageonlymatters.com. And this is where, we're going to bring our people to. This is where we're bringing our people home through. Right. And that's what it's all about. Come home. You already been here. We already know who we are. They know who we are. Now we just really got to bring it home.
You on Instagram?
Oh, yes, sir. So I'm on Instagram at Vessel Jael, and that's Jael.
Just in case the family has questions, additional comments.
Oh, right.
Reach out to you.
Yep. So yeah, you can reach out to me on Instagram, and then on this website, we also have a section for, booking a consultation. We'll have a hotline on there so people can text us directly, and we'll probably have like a live chat box so they can, ask questions on the website, and we'll get that on the back end and be able to respond to in a diligent manner. Yes, so family, this is our time to take our power back. I was just talking to some family last night, and pretty much what it boils down to in those two choices, when you had, blue pill and red pill, is to participate in a society that you don't control versus participating in a society that you do control, where you're actually a part of your own government. You're getting back into, or you're getting prepared to be able to re-educate your own children, your own people, and feeding your own community. And so that's pretty much where the turning point exists for so-called Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, American descendants of slavery. That's where our remedy and our solution truly exists, is through our heritage. And so this is the call to action, family, for y'all to just come on home, and in that process of coming home, you're going to be challenged. You're going to be challenged with your current lifestyle and your current traditions, because many of those things compromise the integrity of your God-given nature, right? And so this route here is all about getting back into alignment with principles of natural law and first law of nature, which is self-preservation, that first greatest commandment of all, which is love, right? To truly love yourself, So we appreciate y'all for tuning in. We have several others loaded and, ready to go forward, and just, being and actually carrying the responsibility to educate our community. So I'm grateful to be in the position to associate with all of the right people that's sharpening my sword, like the good brother here and so many others. But yeah, stay tuned, family. Check back in with the ghetto, gathering higher education to teach others, and let's bring it home.